To the Middle East now, where Israel has vowed to continue with its invasion of Rafah in the south of Gaza after rejecting a ceasefire offer from Hamas.
You know, the agreement was organised by Qatari and Egyptian mediators, but Israel says the terms do not meet its demands.
Well, this comes as Israel ordered a partial evacuation of at least 100,000 citizens. Let's get the thoughts of the defence editor for the Evening Standard, Robert Fox, who joins us this morning. Look, there's been so much noise, hasn't there, even from the likes of America, to try and stop this from happening. And yet it's being described, isn't it, as targeted strikes on Rafah that have begun. But a worrying moment, the next 24 hours, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm afraid we've heard all this before about targeted strikes. In and around Rafah, there have been 1.2 million, and they've told 100,000 to get out of the way. Some started moving from early yesterday. They were moving for the sixth or seventh time since the war began. We're into the 214th day. No, you're absolutely right, is that Mr. Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is determined to do this. He wants a fight to the finish. He wants to declare victory. The Americans, not only Antony Blinken, but Bill Burns, the head of the CIA, are extremely skeptical about the Netanyahu plans. And that's where we are. And as you say, there are signs that the offensive has begun with bombing and now with ground operation. Tanks have been seen moving in.
I mean, in terms of Israel's position then on this, it is becoming increasingly thin, isn't it? I mean, when you look at what seems to be on the table with this deal, it's a three-stage plan, I think, isn't it? And it does look pretty substantial.
Well, it does seem to offer the prospect that what remains of the fighting force of Hamas under Yahya Sinwar, which is the point, will get out because the political leadership and the sponsors of Hamas, not only Qatar, but it's particularly Saudi Arabia, has been strong about this, saying, you've got to end this, you've got to get this out, and we need a settlement with Israel. The point on the other side is that there is a great fear, particularly from the liberal press, which is very strong in Israel. Haaretz, Times of Israel, particularly the English language dailies, are saying, now, look, you've split the country completely and you're just going on with the war. This is to Netanyahu and his hardline settler allies in his government. You're just going on in order that you may survive. Because once we have peace and the thing stops, you'll be out of office, you'll be on trial again, and that's the end of it. And it's becoming a very personal survival game, according to the critics.
Very divisive, even, as you say, in Israel, with some people convinced he's more interested in annihilating Hamas than trying to rescue any remaining hostages from there. And what about here in the UK? Lots of papers reporting about these protests that we've seen at universities across America now reaching our shores, a new tented camp in Oxbridge campuses as well. Is this something that we're going to see more of, do you think, as the humanitarian catastrophe increases over the next few days?
Well, the humanitarian side of it, I would have liked to have gone into that, but it's such a huge subject. Humanitarian law and the International Criminal Court really are becoming factors in this. But let's look at protest. I think you're absolutely right. Protest is now a factor in the electoral cycle, and we're going to see it big time in the English-speaking world as we go into general elections in the UK and the US. Now, having said that, a lot of very interesting background writing is being written about it. This is the symptom of a general gloom that politics isn't delivering in protest. There's a marvellous book by an LSE professor called Jonathan White called In the Long Term, which points this out. It's the absence of hope in so much of the politics. Look at the politics, the local government politics. I don't criticise GB News for this, but most of the coverage was actually a game show forecasting. Who's up, who's down, who's winning, not what it's about, not what you can deliver. And to go back to your very strong point, protest is part of that. Yes, they do feel aggrieved about Palestine and human rights there, but it's part of a general feeling of grievance as well. And to answer your question, and I've been very long-winded and apologise, the answer is absolutely yes. This is going to be a feature of our national politics, US, UK, and certainly in countries like France and Germany for the rest of the summer at least, and probably a lot more.
It's whether it makes a difference, though, Robert. I mean, you could argue when you look at Biden's position. I mean, one thing that they seem to have done is put on hold some munitions delivery to Israel. I mean, is that a result of the protests? Is that just because of the general unease in the White House about what's happening?
I think that's coming down the track. And this is quite clearly what Blinken and Burns have been saying to Netanyahu, because even things like Iron Dome, the famous missile, it is very well famous now, missile defense system, which is a complex of radars, of sensors, absolutely cutting edge stuff and missiles. It does require a lot of American input in terms of part and technology. And they're saying, go on with a war and no jaw, as Churchill put it, and we're going to start rowing back. This is the first sign that it's going to happen. But if Netanyahu is going to say no to any possible solution, a political solution, negotiated solution, which he appears to be saying at the moment, we're going to hear more of that. I think that things are getting very tough because Biden doesn't want this polluting his election campaign.